All right, hey, welcome back, guys. So we have talked about mapping your milestones. We have talked about paving the path in between and designing the bridges between those milestones. And once you have a cohesive customer journey, right? Once you have the milestones and you have mapped the pathway in between, and you have challenged it to see how it could be improved or to find ways that automation could make it more robust, it is now time to level up, is to pour traffic into this journey. So you might already have traffic, right? But the goal here is not just people, but it's to really see how those people interact with the different milestones. And it begins by establishing a baseline, right? So I'm going to use 5 milestones here, but again, you can adapt this framework to fit however many milestones you have mapped out for your journey. But what we're looking for is we want to figure out how many people are hitting each of our milestones in a given month, right? So just start to track. For example, how many visitors do we have to our website? How many of those visitors are opting in? How many of those opt-ins are, taking us up on our free trial offer? How many people who take the free trial are becoming customers? And how many people who purchase are becoming members, are subscribing members, right? So figure out the number of people who are hitting each milestone in a given month. And then we want to track that over time. Right, so we want to build sort of a chart or a tracking mechanism that tells us how this performs month over month. And you can either start tracking this moving forward and give yourself a couple of months to collect that data, or you can go mine it retroactively. But the goal is to sort of establish your baseline so that you know what is happening at each milestone, so you know what you're looking for there, and then to ask yourself, well, how could it be improved? And what do we do with this information? The answer is we look for conversion trends, right? So what we're not just tracking the number of people who hit each milestone, but we're actually tracking the percentages for how many people get lost along the way. So in the example I gave a moment ago, with visitors, opt-ins, free trials, purchases, and members, those numbers in a vacuum don't tell us a whole lot. But what is perhaps more important than just the number of people hitting each milestone is the conversion percentages in between, right? So as you can see, I've got 25% of visitors who are becoming opt-ins. I've got 40% of opt-ins who are taking us up on the free trial. 30% of free trial takers are purchasing that course that they trialed. And then 16% of the people who purchase are becoming members, right? So we actually want to take this process and we want to graph that as well, is look at those conversion trends. So if you have your data you've retroactively collected or mined, or you are collecting new monthly numbers, you want to see how those conversion percentages track over time as well. And my recommendation is to plot those on like a graph, right? Plot those on a bar chart or a line chart so that you can see for each transition point, each gap between milestones, is it consistent? And what percent of people are converting here? So this is the percentage of people who are moving from free trial to purchase over time. And you can see it's roughly 30%, but it is trending upwards. And the reason I emphasize that is because having a historical graph of this, seeing how it performs over time, will be important to know that you're not looking at an anomaly, right? It might reveal that certain times of year you experience higher conversions because people are more motivated, right? If you have a seasonal product or a seasonal service, you probably know that there are certain times of year where people are purchasing. So it's important not to overreact to a dip that is normal or is expected. And so by charting this over time, by looking at a year's worth of data rather than just looking at an individual month or an individual quarter, it'll help make sure that you're getting an accurate representation of what the reality really is. Now, what we are looking for with this graph or with these graphs is we are trying to establish where the drop-offs are, where the bottlenecks might be in this flow, and then it'll give us an opportunity to assess, what portion of our customer journey needs our attention. So in general, drop-offs are where the leads are disappearing. So if in the example that we were talking about here with 1,000 people and then 250 and then 100, the transition points are 25%, 40%, 30%, and 16%. So 40% and 30% don't seem like red flags to me because those are the higher of those four percentages. But 25% and 16% being the two lowest percentages, those stand out to me as opportunities where I might be able to increase the conversion to help build a stronger bridge that gets people between those two milestones. Remember that 25% conversion might sound fine, but it also means that 75% of people aren't converting there. And 16% might sound adequate in terms of, producing new members, but it also means that 84% of contacts are getting stuck there. So when you're looking at the conversion points between these milestones, I try to invert that to think about, okay, well, how many people aren't moving on, right? And what could we do about that? So there are actually a few options for addressing it. If you have established where those bottlenecks are, where those drop-off points are, you have a few choices. Number one is just put more people into the journey. If the numbers work for you, if you're like, hey, this number of people come in, this number of people make it to each milestone, and this number of people end up buying or becoming members, and you've crunched the numbers, then maybe you just need more people into your journey, and that's totally fine. If it's profitable, keep dialing up the traffic and make sure that that profitability scales as the numbers increase. But there are a few things you can do beyond that. Number two here is you can improve the conversion between these milestones to make sure you're maximizing the ROI for your ad spend. So if you're paying to put people into this journey, right, you want to make sure that you're getting the most value out of the dollars that you're spending on ads. And the way that you do that is by reducing the number of people who fall out of that journey at the different gaps between milestones. You're getting the most juice for your lemons, or the most juice for your squeeze, so to speak. And then the third thing you can do here is you can accelerate that buying cycle, right? If you know, hey, I'm gonna, spend money on ads over here, and people are gonna, opt in, and then it just takes them time to work their way through the remaining milestones, you can work on contracting that journey, is reducing the buying cycle that it takes for people to go from milestone 1 to 2 to 3, etc. So the good news for these recommendations is that you can actually do all three of these. Now, depending on the reality that you've revealed for your business, the order you do them in might vary. And what I mean is, if you find that you have holes in your journey, if you have some dramatic drop-off points, you probably want to work on addressing those before you dial the traffic up any further. It's important to have some traffic to help reveal those gaps in those areas that might need your attention. But if you know that there's a huge drop-off point, dialing up your traffic is only going to increase the number of leads that are slipping between the cracks there. So you want to work on improving the conversion points, optimizing those as best you can before you dial the traffic up too dramatically. And of course, over time, you want to make sure you're contracting this. Now, you don't necessarily need to hold off on all of your ad spend until you've done the other two. So depending on what your priorities are, what your business needs, you might choose to do any combination of the three of these. But my recommendation is that you actually do consider all three in terms of opportunities to improve this. So which one you do first ultimately depends on what your business needs, which leads us to part 4 of this conversation. We're going to talk about the different goals, the different metrics, and how to decide which path to pursue first for your business. Rest assured that you can make all of these changes, but in terms of staying focused on the next step, the next priority for your business, I want to guide you through some recommendations to help establish that for you. I'll see you in the next module.